there, welcome to another show. Today I'm going to talk about the Daiei Gothic box sets, and there's both box set 1 and 2, so you're going to get both of them in one go. Now, the reason I'm doing both is when I bought volume 1, it arrived late. Now, I can't remember where I bought it from, but it was a bit later than, it arrived just after Halloween. So I lost a kind of inspiration. I've already went through a lot of Halloween films at that point. It was like, I'm sick of horror movies at this point. So I thought I'll watch it in January, and then another, and then I started watching it again on this Halloween. At some point you just think, I'll just leave it and watch when it's dark, because these kind of movies you want to watch when they're dark. You don't want to watch them when it's bright and you have to block out the sun. So I just left it. At that point, Volume 2 had come out, so I bought that from Radiance, directly from Radiance, and it arrived on time, and so I managed to watch them all 6 of them, basically within about a week and a half. So I was enjoying myself, because this is a really good set of movies. Now, I'm not going through all the directors, but one of them, Tokuzo Tanaka, directed 3 of these films. So I mean, he directed The Snow Woman, he directed The Haunted Castle, and The Demon of Mount Oi. So he directed 3 of them. So one director directed a lot of them. Generally, they're magnificent. So I'll go box set 1, and I'll go box set 2. I think it's easier doing that way. So box set 1, as you see, comes in a nice box. You get a nice booklet with full of wonderful pictures and writings, which I've not gone through yet, reviews of different things, and you also get the short stories they were based upon. So you get quite a few you get a lot in these. Plus you get some extras in the disc as well, where they bring in people to talk about it, each film. So some of these stories you'd have seen other versions of. The film Qui-Gon, which is magnificent, did shorter versions of at least 2 of these stories in the first box set. But all the adaptations in these Daiei Gothic box sets are longer than things would get in something like Qui-Gon, so you get a chance to actually expand the story, give it more depth, give it some more meaning. So it's almost like Qui-Gon's like the pure stuff of Nightmare, while these are more character based, which works and doesn't work. I mean, it works generally, but sometimes you can see limitations of sometimes the story may be about 10 minutes too long for its own good, but they have to have a running time that's acceptable to the audiences. So that happens. I'll start off with the Ghost of Yotsuya, which is the film I'm thinking about, is the one that's longer than it needs to be. Now this is a very good film. It has lots of qualities, but you do feel every so often that it is like 10 minutes too long. But it's trying something different. Now, the Ghost of Yotsuya is based on a legend that's gone through quite a lot of adaptations, and it is about a guy who is given a chance to go up in the world by abandoning his current wife and marrying a richer woman who can give him everything his poor wife can, within like the case of like wealth, respect. So it's a what do you give up for your dreams? And in this case, he gives up his first wife and has her killed, and she comes back to haunt him and the people who plotted against her. Now, the husband is usually the villain in this kind of film. Usually, the husband's a rotter who doesn't appreciate his poor wife and throws her to the wolves, and he gets his just desserts. In this version, it's a bit different. The husband is not awful. The husband is actually a guy who's he's been beaten down by life. He doesn't have the connections to get high in the samurai world, even though he's got a lot of skills with a sword. So he spends a lot of time fishing. His relatives are saying you should be doing better. He has to ignore them. They're always talking to his wife about how he could do better and how he could bribe people to do this or that. And he tries that route and it doesn't really work out for him, and he ends up just feeling like he's been looked down upon by all these rich folk. And by the time he's kind of given up, he protects the daughter of the rich guy from these thugs in this inn where he's just going for a little drink after he's been, subjected to like the rich being cruel to him. So he's in a bad mood. So half the reason he protects the woman is he's sick of these people looking down on him, and he just like wants to trash them. But he protects the woman. She's extremely, she's got a lot of gratitude towards him, and she falls in love with him and views him as a perfect husband for her. Like she's turned down lots of potential husbands, and she's driving her father nuts. But she chooses this guy who's poor and who's viewed as useless by everybody. But her father, because her father is so desperate to marry off his daughter at this point, accepts the fact, okay, this guy actually can protect her and does have skill, even though he comes from a lower class. Fine, I'll do what I need to do to get her husband. Which includes dealing with a lot of sneaky people who you've seen throughout the film up to no good. And at a certain point, it's like a case of, this guy's not going to leave his wife. This guy is courting the richer woman, but he has no real intention of leaving his wife because he does have some morals. So they plot to kill her so that he has no. First, they're going to suggest that she's an affair with their houseboy, who's actually very loyal to her, but also they're going to poison her. So he can look blameless for everything that went wrong. She's the villain, and he can marry the other woman quite easily. So they give her medicine, tell her it came from the husband, even though it didn't, and they also set up the houseboy as basically the person she's having an affair with, even though she's not. She rejects him. She drinks the poison things for her husband. She dies. She comes back as a vengeful ghost and starts killing people who have wronged her. And it's fairly brutal. Everybody gets it. And for a while she's after the husband because she thinks he was the prime motivator for all, but then she realises he wasn't. He actually was loyal in his own grumpy way. So it is a retelling, but the husband's not as bad as he usually is in these tales, which gives it a nice element of complexity, which is one of the nice things about these box set films. A lot of times they're far more complex than they ever really need to be, just to kind of give the story some heft and give the story something unusual. And the horror scenes are great when she finally starts to the poison starts to affect her. Her face gets all ruined by the poison. So when she comes back as a ghost, the face is horrific. And when she comes after all these people, she comes after them in ghostly but interesting ways. There's a subplot with her sister, and her sister's trying to deal with this man who's in love with her, and they're trying to get their life together. So there's lots of interesting things going on. It's just a bit long, the story. Before you get to the thing everyone's waiting for is the final third. Certain things drag on. Certain scenes go on a bit longer than they need to. There's no like any scene that needs to be lost. It's just a sense of the film has been paced to hit a certain running time, and it could have done with losing 10 minutes. There are worse sins. It's still an excellent film. I'd still happily rewatch it. It's just like it's a bit long in the middle and could have done with some trimming, because most of these films are within like 80 to 90 minutes, so they're not, because a lot of time they went out with double bills and things like that. So it's in the theatres that that were all tied to different studios, so you could have like a film that's an hour and a half and a film that's an hour. That happened a lot in the 50s in Britain as well, so that's what happened. Made a lot of money. So it's just the conventions. So next we go to the Snow Woman. the first Tanaka film I'm covering. The Snow Woman is excellent. The Snow Woman is definitely one of the highlights of these box sets. Which is funny because it was one of the films I looked at as like, well, you're never going to top Qui-Gon's version of this. And it doesn't top it, just makes it different. Which is, but doesn't, it's not something that tries to reinvent the wheel or anything. It just makes it, it just extends it a bit and gives it more subplots. But unlike the Ghost of Yotsuya, these subplots really deliver in a way, at least for me they do. So I was never bored. I was quite happy to have the longer version of the story. Where in this one, the Snow Woman falls in love with this young man who, when she lives on killing people out in the snow to take the life force to. That's her way of feeding. So she's a yokai rather than a ghost, and but she falls in love with the young man and lets him live. But she says to him, "You can never tell anybody about me. That's if you do, I'm going to come and kill you. But if we keep this a secret, I'll leave you alone." He says, "Fine, yep." So he gets home, and the thing is, the woman has fallen in love with him, so she comes back as a human, and she lives as a human with him. She charms him, and helps him with his career. He's a guy who's a sculptor, but he's a poor sculptor, so he's not given much respect by the rich. But he's good at what he does, and they live a modest life, but they're happy. They have a son. Everything's going well until these new people come in. Are jealous of the husband and the wife. They're the lords, they're the overlords. So they bring in their own sculptor who's also going to do this Buddhist sculpture, and it's going to be a competition for whose one becomes the main thing for the Buddhist temple, which is a big thing culturally in that area. Like they do everything they can to mess with the husband, to say he stole the wood, he did this, he did that, and each time the Snow Woman finds ways to help him. So a lot of the story about him trying to build a sculpture, he's trying to find the perfect face for it, and she's trying to help him as they mess with him. So this could have been tedious, but it's done really well. The characterization's nice because it's all about these people try to survive through horrible circumstances, and the villains are genuinely nasty people. And there's a nice subplot where the woman has to go and help this child who's got a fever and is dying. She uses her powers, Snow Woman powers. So it shows she's got. She's a creature who can kill people, but she also has developed human feelings. She also has to avoid this local shaman who can sense that she's not quite right. So there's lots of things going on. Of course, at the end, all hell breaks loose. And of course, he has to tell his wife that about the encounter with the Snow Woman, even though the wife is a Snow Woman. So there's lots of wonderful stuff. It's just one of those stories that are just so well told. Even when you can say, when you look back on it, the villains were a bit broad. Doesn't matter, because the central tale of this guy and this woman try to bring up this kid in a poor environment, and this basically this supernatural creatures try to become a human, or experience love, experience empathy, which she hasn't felt before. It just works. It's just a wonderful story, and it just delivers. So, Snow Woman is so much better than expected, because I thought this would be the kind of weak one in the box set, but no, it's wonderful. It would have been my favourite until I saw The Bride from Hades, which is just wonderful. This was the one I didn't have a clue about because it wasn't used in Qui-Gon, and I had never heard of this film before. And it's easily my favourite of all the box sets. This one is my favourite. This box set, and it's competing with another one from another box set for my favourite overall. It's just wonderful. So it's basically this guy who's comes from a samurai family, but he rejects it. He does not want to be a guy in this world of privilege. He wants to go and help the people, and he's in the verge of being thrown out his family for ignoring them so much. And he's just living a painful life because they tried to arrange a marriage with him and he says no. to this woman he doesn't know, and she doesn't care for him, and she doesn't care for her. He wants to just to help the youth of the poor people so they can build up skills and knowledge that will help them in later life. That means basically the poor can actually develop a backbone, develop some skills that will help them to create a more equal society. So that's his motivation, that's what he's doing, and everyone from the poor love him because he is a genuine person, and they know he's in problems with his parents, but he's genuinely trying to help them. So during the time of the supernatural festivals, with the ghosts walk the earth, he pushes they have this ceremony where they push all these lanterns into the lake to signify ghosts, the dead, and moving on to the next life. And he helps push off these two ghosts, these two lanterns, and doesn't realise that they're four ghosts who have been abandoned by life. And these two women show up, and they say basically that they are on the run, and from a life where the young lady has been forced to become a courtesan. She's on the run, so she's going to become a courtesan. She came from a richer family, but her father lost all her money, and she just asked for help for the night. So he puts them up for the night, and he's fallen in love with her. And they keep visiting at night after night, and he keeps on getting iller, and she starts to make love to him because she's in love with him. And then at a certain point, his pal, who helps him out, but who's a bit of a scallywag, he's finds out that these two women are ghosts, so he has to try and convince his pal that they're ghosts. His pal throws him out, so he gets the local priest and tells him, and they investigate and realize these women are dead. So they force the guy to break off communication and put all this stuff around the house so the ghosts cannot get in, because if they spend one more night with the guy, he will die. And into this situation comes this the wife of the scallywag character, who's been away for a while. Now she comes back. She hears about the situation and realizes, okay, these ghosts actually might know where some money is. And she says, we will take off the bond that saved the separate you from your love if he tells where your money is, and we'll take that. The ghosts tell him where money is, they go to get it, they take off the bond, the guy dies. Now, it's all a very simple story about human nature, human cruelty, and also the sense of these lost souls. Because the guy who the woman falls in love with him because he's a lost soul just like her. So she generally falls in love with him, but she also is a ghost. She is going to kill him, essentially, but she's going to kill him so he can join her in the afterlife. And he's having such a horrible life anyway. It's like there is a nice ambiguity to the whole situation. There's also the guy who portrays him does like him, but his wife's a bad influence on him. And of course they get their just desserts in the end too. But everything works. There's logic to everything. So even if something you think, well, that doesn't make sense, by the end of the film it makes sense. So there's lots of nice little details throughout the film. But it's just the atmosphere is wonderful. The sense of the supernatural world and the natural world just coexisting, and people just try to survive. And you have good people, you have bad people. The religious people are Buddhists, and they're not trying to be like pious. They're just trying to help the guy survive the encounter of the ghosts. The ghosts hate these priests because they are wise to the kind of darker nature of their existence. But everyone's got a point of view. Like, you don't blame the ghost, you don't blame the guy, you don't blame anybody except for the wife of the best friend. And it's just wonderfully done. The film is done in a very creepy way. Everything's just right. So that's one of my favourites. This is definitely one I've been watching quite a lot. It's just a wonderful film. So now we go to the second box set. Well, there's more Tanaka. He's at 2 of the 3 films. But he doesn't do the best one. So I'll start with the Ghost, or no, the Demon of Mount O, right? It's got the wrong running time. It says it's 83 minutes, and it's really 113 minutes. So I don't know what happened. There's probably an error somewhere. And the reason for this being longer than the rest is because it was one of mega productions they have, like just like in modern days, where there's certain time periods where films make a lot more money because people are out on holiday and things. Japan has that same thing, and at this time they had 3 periods where they would it was basically like late April, early May, August, and the New Year, where the people would be out and be out spending money, so you could actually make money if you had a super production with lots of stars. So this was one of the big productions with lots of stars, and this was Taka's first big film after he made a couple of small films, and you can tell in some sort of way, like even though I don't know, to modern audiences, none of these people are stars. The films haven't like lasted to the same degree of star vehicles that there might be in certain films you'll just say, oh, that's an actor in the film, rather than, oh, that was a star in the film. Like, you just don't know these people in the same way unless you're like a major Japanese film fan. But from modern audiences, you wouldn't know. But it does have this thing where it's either too long or too short, where there's a lot of subplots that either should have been expanded more or should have been cut out of the film and let other things be expanded. But it does feel like there's a lot of clutter in the story, but it's not developed a lot of the time. But that's the kind of biggest problem with the film, is it just feels a lot cluttered. The plot is extremely difficult to explain, so I'll just give a very basic version. Essentially, there's a guy in Mount O that's leading all these rebels, and he's been attacking the different like clans that are around the main base that controls the area. So he's called a demon, even though he's a guy, but he does have these 4 like creatures that actually protect him with supernatural abilities. So, which can turn into spiders, bulls, various other things. You can do various other things, and it's all very cluttered. I'm like, was it 3? Was it 4? Because it's that thing is like, there's a lot going on, and they explain a lot in plot, and sometimes your mind wanders a little bit because there's so much explanation. It's like it's about 3 films just chucked into one, and it's like you're given information after information, and sometimes it's like too much. So there's always lots of interesting things going on, but they kind of fight with each other to get your attention. So essentially, a woman is cursed, and she has been passed from place to place. And she was kidnapped, and turns out she's the wife of the demon. And the fact that she was kidnapped and then raped and she didn't kill herself has made the demon go mad and go out for revenge against the whole area, and he becomes a different man. He went from a kind man to a man who's out to kill everybody. That's the myth, the legend. As the film goes on, you get all these other characters, and you get these like the stories of these other characters, and what they're all about, and what their abilities are, and all the rest of it. It becomes this thing of he's actually still quite decent. He's trying to lead a rebellion because he thinks that the way things are going are unjust. The way the leadership is going is unjust. And then as you further into the story, you find that there's a new leader and of the people he's fighting, and he thinks certain things are unjust too. He thinks there's certain bits of corruption that needs to be sorted. So they're actually not, they're fighting each other for what they think each other is rather than what they are. And they basically have to go through wars with each other, send spies to each other, send assassins to each other. Sometimes in the form of like creatures, like there's a giant spider fight, which is a lot of fun. There's a crazy bull thing, which is a lot of fun. There's this woman who's can do all these high jumps and stuff, and she's a lot of fun, and she's in love with the demon as well, even though she's his assistant, sidekick, whatever. There's the sister of one of the warriors goes in undercover to find out she gets caught quite early from the demon, and she's the one who finds out the demon's not actually as bad as he says he is. And the leader of the opposite of the guy that he's trying to kill gets to know the wife and finds out her story, and she finds out that all the tragedy of her story as well. So there's lots of plotting going on. It's just very busy, and it's like there's some bits where someone goes here, someone goes there, and there's a fight here, a fight there, and it's like, well, one would have been fine, but three of different things, one after another, is like, it's just, there's a lot, that's a lot to take in. So I did find my mind wandering, and it's a bit of a shame because the film is good. There's lots of good scenes as the main character, the demon, is fascinating. And the more you get to know him, and the more you see that he's not the evil guy that they say he is, and he's very frustrated with his own people who have gone from being like idealist rebels to indulge themselves and becoming like monsters that he needs to try and solve. So there's lots of interesting things going on. It's just busy as hell, but it's still an enjoyable film. But yeah, no, it's just not as good as the Snow Woman, which was so much stronger for the film. We're into the final Tanaka film, The Haunted Castle. This one is wonderful. It's much more streamlined. This is the last Tanaka film for Daiei. He left the studio after that just before it collapsed. Essentially, there's cat ghosts in Japanese cinema. This is one of the staples of the that genre. There's also Hammer did their own version of that with John Gillian as well, which wasn't as good as these ones. Cause this is in the culture, so even with these ones, because they're so used to yokai things, even if something was a bit excessive, it still feels part of the culture, so it doesn't quite jump out as much as it happened in Britain. So the Haunted Castle has a great start, a great ending. The middle bit's a bit confusing in some things, mainly because sometimes you can't tell who's who, because certain actors look very similar, and you've all these ladies, and it's like, what's the older lady? That's the younger lady. Who connected to who? Well, I found that confusing. Maybe other people, and probably this rewatch I'll figure it all out and it'll be fine. But the first viewing, I found a tad confusing. But this one delivers an atmosphere and on the basics of the beginning and the ending so well that little bits in the middle don't really matter so much. So essentially what happens is this guy, this blind man who was a leader of this area, has been dispossessed of his land. He's now living in this smaller home with his sister, and there's a new lord of the area, and he gets a little bit of money, but that's all. But the new lord takes interest in his sister because his sister, he wants a concubine as well as his wife, and he views his sister as a perfect concubine. The old man, the blind man, disagrees, and the leader kills him and buries the body. And the sister, realising what's happened, kills herself and gets the cat, her pet cat, the cat that was the pet of her brother and her. The idea was if the cat licks the blood, it can become the spirit of vengeance against those who got them. So the cat drinks her blood as she dies, and becomes a supernatural creature that's going to go against the people that did wrong to her family. And the cat can now fly and do various things, but also it can possess other people, who can turn them into these kind of possessed creatures who are fairly evil, and who suddenly love fish and love to lick themselves like a cat, and all that stuff's great. All that weird stuff's wonderful. Like anything to do with the supernatural and the atmosphere of this film is just wonderful. It's like Tanaka has done like Snow Woman, by this point he's done The Demon in Mount O, so he knows how to do this stuff really well. And apparently he did a cat-based film early on in his career before he did Mount O, so he's done this kind of genre before. So he's in his element. Just the plotting's a bit rougher, really, is the big thing. But again, that's just because there's so many characters. But it's not like Mount O where there's tons of plots flying around. It's just like sometimes you can forget who's who, but then they have a woman walking down corridors with just candles, and it's like, oh, this is great. Who cares? And you've got these supernatural demonesses just causing havoc and poisoning people and scratching people to death, and oh, it's just wonderful. There's an Eastern exorcism as well. There's just so much cool stuff going on in this film, and some great visuals. And there's this sequence where this woman is covered in this room with all these candles around about them. And I swear that Coppola saw this film for Dracula, because it's Dracula. There's a scene in Dracula that looks just like this, if a bit more overdone, but the whole idea feels very similar. I'm sure the idea had been done by other people before that as well, but it reminded me a lot of Dracula. And the whole tone of this film reminded me of the Coppola versus Dracula. Just this whole idea of, it's maybe a horror story, but it's really kind of a dark fantasy ultimately, and it's got lots of things going on, but it's not like there's creepy stuff going on here, but it's much more enjoyable ultimately, and it's all about the weird touches that come up throughout the film. So yeah, I mean, The Haunted Castle was wonderful. Again, it did a couple of flaws, but still, I'd happily rewatch it. I should say I watched all of these films on projector, projected up onto the screen over there. So you got a real sense of the atmosphere of the films. So you really get a sense of how these films looked when they were released, and just how wonderful they were visually. So finally we get to my favourite film of this box set, and potentially my favourite film of both box sets, Let Bride of Hades can Fight It Out. So The Ghost of Yotsuya Swamp, which again was the one in the box set. When I read the plot description, I was like, well, that one looks the least interesting to me. You know, it was like, just like, it looks some very kind of a swamp ghost, and just the general description, I was like, I'm not interested. And then again you watch it and it's like, oh, this is amazing. This is so misanthropic. This is like, it should have been called Everybody Dies. Because everybody dies in horrible ways. It is a film noir, but it's almost, it looks at film noirs and says, you lot are weak. It reminds me a lot of Graveyard of Honor, the original, where it's just so brutal and so out of control, the whole film, and people behave in the most horrible ways, and it's like, I cannot believe this isn't a film. I can't believe they're letting people away with this. So it starts out with a moneylender basically going to a client who owes him, this guy's a samurai who's like a main assistant to the shogun, and he has to and he owes money all around town. He has no intention of repaying it, so he sets this blind masseur, who's also a moneylender, up to try and seduce his wife, and then he breaks in halfway through and calls his wife a betrayer, and then kills the masseuse and steals his money. But he also kills the wife at the same time because she betrayed him, so he rid of both of them. And it's just evil straight away. He gets two of his assistants to take the bodies and dump them in the swamp. Lots of bodies are dumped in the swamp in this film. The swamp, anytime anyone goes near the swamp, things are getting bad. So then the guy gets haunted by the ghosts of the people he killed, and apparently kills himself. And at the same time, his two assistants are looking for the money, the rest of the money from the money lender, because they know there's more money. It's like, well, where did they hide it? And they go to the daughter. He's got two daughters, and one of them lives with him, the money lender, and they rape her to try and get her to give up the money. She does not do it, so they sell her to prostitution. It's that kind of film. The other daughter comes back, doesn't know what's happened to her father or her sister, they're just gone. But she looks and finds it, she knows where the money is, she goes and finds it. And then we go to the second part of the plot, where she watches a prostitute elsewhere in the city, and she's not getting on with her madam. The madam's in debt to these local gangsters. She pays off the debt and takes charge of to her house, and makes the madam suddenly work. Now this madam's like in her 50s, so this is like cruelty. It's either you work as a prostitute again, or you're in the streets. the madam tries to plot. She ends up trying to get the son of the samurai guy who committed suicide to ruin the business out of revenge. The son actually takes a liking to the daughter of the masseuse and says, "No, I'm not going. I'm going to tell her what happened." So the old woman gets beaten up and told her place, and the son and the daughter of the two different parties have an affair. And then things get even more misanthropic. You know, maids are killed. People have boiling water thrown in their faces. Everyone proves to be, apart from the daughter who gets raped of the blind masseuse, everyone else in this film is horrible, and she's the victim of horribleness, and has a merciful death halfway through the film. But it just keeps on going. Even characters you think might be kind of halfway decent turn out to be horrible. Hauntings turn up, ghosts turn up. Your lead character is the son of the horrible samurai guy, and he almost is like, how unsympathetic can you make a character in a film? That's kind of the motivation for this character, because he's horrible. But the whole film's wonderful because it's so misanthropic. It's like, and it feels like this is much more close to life what it's like to be in the kind of underbelly of the Japanese culture. But the best you can do is either run a whorehouse or go to whorehouses all the time and mess people over for small profits and deal with local gangsters. And it just is a film noir with some ghosts in it, but it's so brutal. It's just the most brutal film I've seen for years. This is wonderful in how utterly horrible the characters behave, and they behave in horrible ways that are almost unjustified. It's like, because it's almost like you're hunting yourself to get revenge on this person, but it doesn't matter. They're gonna do it. They can't help themselves. They're gonna do it. And people get killed for the most basic reasons, and it's just wonderful to watch just how horrible this film is. And it's very grimy. This was one of the last films shot for Daiei because they're looking out of business. So, and the extras, they say the director of this film had made this story before, but much more lavish version of it, and this time is much more grimy and nastier, really. And it just suits the story, because it's just like, this is what the story needs, just this sense of horribleness, these people living horrible lives. It's just wonderful. This is just like the highlight of my Halloween of 2025, this film. This is just so misanthropic. I highly recommend it. If you're in the mood for people behaving horribly, this is the film for you. If you still like to think well of people, maybe it's not, but I thought it was wonderful. So this epic video is all about these 6 films. They're all wonderful, they're all worth seeing. Go buy the box sets. It's worth it. Visually they look great, they've been restored wonderfully, the sound's terrific, the extras are nice, and just the atmosphere of like great craftsmen doing these like these horror stories with great aplomb. It is almost like a Japanese Hammer in the sense of really good technicians doing these stories that came from the culture that they were based on, and doing them from style but also doing their own thing with them. So highly recommended. Go watch these films. Hope you enjoyed this video. That's me for now.